Hello everyone and welcome to a new lesson with Miss Rafa. Today we're going to start with Unit 6, United Nations. We're going to start with the first skill, reading. So if you're ready, let's get started. Module 3, Politics. Unit 6, United Nations. Let's start our lesson with a preview. Match these phrases with their acronyms. Check the meanings in a dictionary. كلمة acronyms هي اختصار إما لمؤسسة أو منظمة بيكون فيها عدد كلمات طويلة، فمناخد الأحرف الأولى بس من كل كلمة لنشكل اختصار. Let's see an example. United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. منلاحظ إنه شكلنا الأكرونيم من خلال الأحرف الأولى لاسم المنظمة. United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. The United Nations Relief and Works Agency. World Trade Organization. World Health Organization. United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund. Okay, now let's get started with the reading. We're going to see some vocabulary first. Charter, charter, charter. Statute, statute, statute. Signed, signed, signed. Representative, representative, representative. Founding member, founding member, founding member. Ratification, ratification, ratification. Elected, elected, elected. General Assembly, General Assembly, General Assembly. Multipurpose, multipurpose, multipurpose. Predecessor, predecessor, predecessor. Treaty, treaty, treaty. Disband, disband, disband. Devastation, devastation, devastation. Humanitarian, humanitarian, humanitarian. Crisis, crisis, crisis. Affiliated, affiliated, affiliated. Unprecedented, unprecedented, unprecedented. Refugee, refugee, refugee. Disruption, disruption, disruption. Terrorism, terrorism, terrorism. Disparity, disparity, disparity. League, league, league. Conquer, conquer, conquer. Illiteracy, illiteracy, illiteracy. Sovereign, sovereign, sovereign. Interfere, interfere, interfere. Domestic affairs, domestic affairs, domestic affairs. Now let's start with the lesson. History of the United Nations. The United Nations was established by the Charter of the United Nations and the Statute of the International Court of Justice. The Charter was signed on 26 June 1945 by the representatives of 50 countries, including Syria. Poland signed on 15 October 1945. There were 51 founding members in 1945. The United Nations (UN) officially came into existence on October 24, 1945, after ratification of the Charter. The day is now celebrated each year around the world as United Nations Day. The UN contains 5 permanent members: China, France, Russian Federation, the United Kingdom, and the United States, and 10 non-permanent members elected for 2-year terms by the General Assembly. The United Nations UN was the second multi-purpose international organization established in the 20th century that was worldwide in scope and membership. Its predecessor, the League of Nations, was created by the Treaty of Versailles in 1919 and disbanded in 1946. The UN also has regional offices in Geneva, Vienna, and Nairobi. Its official languages are Arabic, Chinese, English, French, Russian, and Spanish. At the beginning of the 21st century, the UN and its programs and affiliated agencies struggled to address a humanitarian crisis and civil wars, unprecedented refugee flows, the devastation caused by the spread of AIDS, global financial disruptions, international terrorism, and the disparities in wealth between the world's richest and poorest peoples. The aims of the United Nations: to keep peace throughout the world, to develop friendly relations between nations, to help nations work together to improve the lives of poor people, to conquer hunger, disease, illiteracy, and to encourage respect for each other's rights and freedoms. To be a center for helping nations achieve these aims. The principles of the United Nations. All member states have sovereign equality. All member states must obey the Charter. Countries must try to settle their differences by peaceful means. Countries must avoid using force or threatening to use force. The UN may not interfere in the domestic affairs of any country. Countries should try to assist the United Nations. Now let's answer the questions. Match the words to their definitions. Charter, ratification, permanent, predecessor, affiliated, devastation, charter, a statement of the principles and purposes of an organization. Ratification, making something valid by confirming it. Permanent, continuing to exist for a long time. Predecessor, a system that existed before another one. Affiliated, being joined in close association. Devastation, the state of being decayed or destroyed. Question B. Read the text, then answer these questions. How was the United Nations created? The United Nations was established by the Charter of the United Nations and the Statute of the International Court of Justice. Who were the founding members of the United Nations? There were 51 founding members in 1945. Which countries are the permanent members of the UN? The UN contains 5 permanent members: China, France, Russian Federation, the United Kingdom, and the United States. When was the League of Nations established? The League of Nations was created by the Treaty of Versailles in 1919 and disbanded in 1946. What was the main purpose of the United Nations at the beginning of the 21st century? It was to address humanitarian crises and civil wars, unprecedented refugee flows, the devastation caused by the spread of AIDS, global financial disruptions, international terrorism, and the disparities in wealth between the world's richest and poorest peoples. Mention 3 principles of the UN. All member states have sovereign equality. All member states must obey the Charter. Countries must try to settle their differences by peaceful means. In your opinion, does the UN play a moral role in the world? How? This is up to you. That's everything for today. Thank you very much. See you next lesson.